The alarms blared through the interstellar medical vessel Zenith as the emergency transport pod docked with unexpected force. Dr. Xorlak, chief medical officer of the Vexilian Medical Corps, rushed toward the decontamination chamber with 4 of his medical staff in tow. The unexpected arrival had triggered the ship's highest alert protocols. "Status report," Xorlak demanded, his translucent blue skin rippling with excitement. His assistant, Mirex, consulted her neural interface. "Unknown biological entity recovered from a damaged spacecraft in Sector 7. Life signs unstable but present." The rescue team reported it appears to be from an unregistered planet. Xorlak's compound eyes widened. "Fascinating. A first-contact medical emergency." He turned to his team. "Remember your training. Unknown biology means maximum precautions." The team donned their biosafety suits, complete with atmospheric regulators and neural shields. The Vexilians had encountered 17 new species in their centuries as the galaxy's premier medical specialists, but each new biological form presented unique challenges. As the decontamination process completed, the transport pod's door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Inside lay a being unlike any Xorlak had seen before. It had pinkish-tan external covering, a bilateral symmetry similar to several known species, and a curious growth of dark filaments on the top of its head. "Vital signs?" Xorlak asked as the team carefully transferred the unconscious being to their medical transport. "Erratic," reported Dr. Nelvara, the team's diagnostic specialist. "The being has a rhythmic internal pump circulating a red fluid throughout its system via tubular structures. The pump is functioning at accelerated intervals." "Temperature regulation?" Xorlak inquired as they moved swiftly down the corridor. "Elevated beyond what we believe is baseline. The creature appears to be generating excessive heat." They arrived at the main surgical bay, a gleaming chamber filled with the most advanced medical technology in the known galaxy. Xorlak's 6-fingered hands moved expertly over the diagnostic console as holographic representations of the creature's internal systems appeared above the examination table. "Remarkable," he murmured. "A carbon-based life form with integrated electrical neural pathways, multiple redundant systems. And look at this, a symbiotic relationship with millions of microscopic organisms in its digestive tract." The being suddenly moved, its 5-fingered appendage twitching. Then its facial features contorted. "NNGHH." A sound emerged from what they presumed was its speech orifice. "It's regaining consciousness," Mirex observed. The creature's eyes, 2 of them, positioned at the front of its head, slowly opened. They were blue, with black centers that expanded upon exposure to the light. The being looked around, confusion evident even to the aliens who had never encountered its kind before. "Where?" The being spoke, the universal translator struggling to interpret. "Where am I?" Xorlak stepped forward cautiously. "You are aboard the Vexilian medical vessel Zenith. I am Dr. Xorlak. We recovered your damaged spacecraft." The creature attempted to sit up, but winced and fell back. "My ship, the asteroid field. I couldn't navigate." It touched its side and made a sharp sound. "Please remain still," Xorlak said. "You appear to have sustained damage to your external covering and possibly internal systems." "You mean I'm injured?" the being clarified. "My name is Patrick Jackson. I'm human, from Earth." "Human," Xorlak repeated, committing the term to memory. "We are unfamiliar with your species. With your permission, we would like to treat your injuries." Patrick nodded slowly. "Thank you. I think I've got some broken ribs in my leg." He tried to move it and again made that curious sharp sound. Dr. Nelvara leaned toward Xorlak. "The subject exhibits strange behavior when attempting movement." "Perhaps a neurological malfunction?" Xorlak observed closely. "Scan the neural pathways during these episodes." They ran a comprehensive bioscan, the results appearing as a complex 3-dimensional model above Patrick. "Fascinating," Xorlak said. "There appears to be intense neural activity when the human attempts certain movements. Multiple areas of physical trauma detected, fractured supportive internal structures, torn connective tissues, and disrupted vascular pathways." "The bone in my leg is broken," Patrick said through gritted teeth. "And it hurts like hell." The translator struggled with the last phrase, but Xorlak was more interested in a term it did translate. "Hurt? This is a sensation," Patrick looked confused. Yes, pain. Don't you feel pain? The medical team exchanged glances. We experience system alerts when our bodies sustain damage, Mirex explained. But this appears different. We should begin treatment immediately, Xorlak decided. Prepare surgical protocols. As they administered a sedative compatible with Patrick's biochemistry, Xorlak contemplated this curious concept of pain. The human had described it as unpleasant, yet it seemed to provide crucial information about bodily damage. Most intriguing, the surgery proceeded with meticulous precision. Xorlak repaired the fractured bones using molecular regeneration, sealed the damaged blood vessels, and restored the torn tissues. Throughout the procedure, he noted the complex network of neural fibers that seemed to serve no purpose except to transmit these pain signals. Why maintain such an elaborate system merely to create discomfort? He wondered aloud. It seems inefficient. Hours later, Patrick awoke in the recovery chamber. The room was adjusted to Earth atmospheric conditions based on data recovered from his spacecraft's environmental systems. How are you functioning? Xorlak asked, entering the room with Mirex. Patrick sat up cautiously, touching his side and leg. Better. Much better, actually. What did you do? We repaired your damaged system's bones, tissues, and vessels. Your body is now generating new cellular material to complete the healing process. That's incredible, Patrick said. On Earth, I'd be in a cast for weeks. Xorlak's head tilted. We have questions about your species if you are willing to provide information, particularly about this phenomenon you call pain. Patrick looked surprised. You don't feel pain? No. When our bodies sustain damage, we receive neural notifications much like your computer systems might alert you to a malfunction. But there is no sensation associated with it. That's hard to imagine, Patrick said. Pain is, well, it's awful, but it tells us something's wrong, where the problem is, how serious it might be. But it causes distress, Mirex noted. We observed your neural patterns. The signals created significant disruption. That's the point, Patrick explained. Pain demands attention. You can ignore a warning light on a dashboard, but you can't ignore pain, at least not easily. Xorlak considered this. Among our people, system damage triggers automatic protective responses. If a limb is damaged, neural commands redirect resources and initiate repair protocols. No unpleasant sensation is necessary. But what if the damage isn't obvious? Patrick asked. What if it's internal or developing slowly? Xorlak and Mirex exchanged looks. Our diagnostic systems are highly advanced. We detect anomalies before they become critical. Always, Patrick pressed. A moment of silence followed. Not always, Xorlak admitted. There have been cases where Vexilians experienced catastrophic system failures with minimal warning. Patrick nodded. That's what pain prevents. It's an evolutionary adaptation. Our ancestors who felt pain when touched by fire were more likely to survive than those who didn't. Over the next few days, as Patrick recovered, the medical team conducted extensive interviews about human physiology. They were particularly fascinated by the human pain response. So these pain receptors are distributed throughout your body? Xorlak asked during one session. Pretty much, Patrick confirmed. Some areas have more than others. Fingers, face, genitals, they're particularly sensitive. And the intensity varies based on the severity of damage. Generally, yes. A paper cut stings, but a broken bone is excruciating. Nelvara, who had joined the research team, looked perplexed. But we observed that you sometimes experience pain without actual damage occurring. Patrick nodded. That's true. Headaches, muscle cramps, phantom limb pain. Our system isn't perfect. Then it is inefficient, Mirex concluded. Not necessarily, Patrick countered. Sometimes pain warns us before damage happens. Like when you feel burning in your muscles during exercise, it's telling you you're approaching your limits. Xorlak's interest grew. It's preventative as well as reactive. Exactly. And it helps us learn. Touch a hot stove once. Feel that pain, and you'll never do it again. 1 week after his rescue, Patrick was almost fully recovered, thanks to the advanced Vexilian medical technology. Xorlak had arranged for him to join a research meeting with the ship's chief scientist, Dr. Zuvex. This pain response could revolutionize our understanding of biological warning systems, Xorlak explained enthusiastically. It's crude but remarkably effective. Dr. Zuvex, an older Vexilian with pale green skin, looked skeptical. It seems barbaric. Advanced species develop beyond such primitive mechanisms. Patrick frowned. With respect, Doctor, pain isn't primitive. It's sophisticated. It's contextual, layered with meaning, and integrated with our emotional responses. Emotional responses? Zuvex asked. Yes, pain isn't just physical. We feel emotional pain too: grief, heartbreak, loneliness. The aliens looked confused. Xorlak consulted his neural interface. Your species experiences discomfort from non-physical stimuli. Absolutely. Sometimes worse than physical pain. This concept seemed to disturb the Vexilians. Their society had engineered emotional stability millennia ago, considering it an evolutionary advancement. How do you function with such chaos in your neural systems? Zuvex asked. Patrick smiled. We adapt. That's what humans do best. The conversation was interrupted by a ship-wide alarm. Xorlak received an urgent neural notification. Medical emergency in engineering. Multiple casualties. The medical team rushed to the scene, with Patrick following behind. In the engineering section, an equipment malfunction had caused a localized radiation leak. 5 Vexilian engineers lay on the floor, their blue skin paling to a sickly white. No external injuries, Mirex reported after scanning them, but significant cellular degradation beginning in the exposed tissues. They don't appear to be in distress, Patrick observed. They wouldn't, Xorlak explained while administering treatment. Their systems are detecting the damage, but without pain, they have no subjective experience of it. That's why they didn't evacuate immediately they received alerts, but continued working to fix the malfunction. On Earth, radiation poisoning causes intense pain, Patrick said. It's the body screaming that something is very wrong. And they would have evacuated sooner, Xorlak realized. As the medical team worked to save the engineers, Xorlak began to see the human pain response in a new light. It wasn't a primitive system, it was an elegant solution to a universal problem: the need for immediate, prioritized response to threats. Later that evening, in his laboratory, Xorlak reviewed the data from Patrick's medical scans. The human pain system was more complex than he'd initially realized. It didn't just send binary signals damage/no damage, but conveyed rich information about type, location, severity, and urgency. Doctor, Patrick said, entering the lab. I've been thinking about our conversations. Xorlak looked up from his work. As have I. Your species' approach to system monitoring is illuminating. It's not perfect, Patrick admitted. Pain can become chronic, persist after healing, or occur without actual damage. We develop conditions where the pain system itself malfunctions. All biological systems have failure modes, Xorlak noted. The question is whether the benefits outweigh the costs. For humans, they do. Pain has helped us survive as a species. Xorlak's compound eyes focused on Patrick. Would you be willing to participate in a research project? I believe we could develop a synthetic version of your pain response, one that could be integrated with our neural monitoring systems. Patrick looked surprised. You want to give Vexilians the ability to feel pain? A modified version, yes. One that provides the benefits without unnecessary suffering. Those engineers might have saved themselves had they felt the damage occurring to their bodies. I'm not sure pain works that way, Patrick cautioned. It's not just a signal, it's an experience. Precisely why we need your help to understand it fully. Over the next 2 weeks, Patrick worked closely with Xorlak and his team. They mapped his neural responses to various stimuli, from slight pressure to temperature changes. Patrick described the qualitative differences between types of pain: the sharp, immediate pain of a cut versus the deep, throbbing pain of a bruise. The fascinating thing, Xorlak noted during one session, is how your brain modulates these signals. Your attention, expectations, and emotional state all affect how you experience pain. That's why distraction helps, Patrick explained. If I focus on something else, the pain often feels less intense. Mirex, who had become particularly interested in the psychological aspects, added, and your species has developed cultural practices around pain management, from meditation to your various pharmacological interventions. We've been dealing with pain for our entire evolutionary history, Patrick said. Of course, we've developed ways to cope with it. As their research progressed, A Vexilian medical transport arrived with news from Patrick's home planet. Earth authorities had detected his emergency beacon and negotiated with Vexilian diplomats for his return. "You'll be going home soon," Xorlak told him during their final research session. "But your contribution to our understanding of biological warning systems will have lasting impact." Patrick looked pleased but concerned. "What will you do with this research?" "We're developing a neural augmentation that simulates aspects of your pain response. It will be optional and enhancement for those who work in hazardous conditions, like our engineers." "Will it hurt?" Xorlak's skin rippled in what Patrick had come to recognize as amusement. "That is the point, is it not? But it will be controllable, with intensity proportional to the actual threat." The day before Patrick's departure, the ship's alarms blared once again. This time, the emergency was in the medical bay itself. One of the research assistants had been exposed to a toxic compound that was rapidly affecting his nervous system. The standard Vexilian neural alerts had activated, but the assistant had dismissed them, assuming it was a minor issue. By the time others noticed his deteriorating condition, the toxin had spread throughout his system. Xorlak and his team worked frantically to purge the poison and repair the damage. Patrick watched from the observation area, his face grim. Had he felt pain from the initial exposure? Mirek said quietly. "He might have sought treatment immediately," Xorlak finished. After hours of intensive treatment, the assistant was stabilized, but his recovery would be lengthy. Xorlak joined Patrick in the observation room, his normally smooth movements now showing signs of fatigue. "I understand now," the alien doctor said. "Pain is not a design flaw or a primitive vestige. It is a sophisticated survival mechanism." Patrick nodded. "It's the body's way of demanding attention when something needs it urgently. We Vexilians pride ourselves on our advanced medical technology, our rational approach to body management. But we overlooked something fundamental, the value of subjective experience. Not just the raw data, but what it feels like." Patrick agreed. "Yes, feelings are data too complex, immediate, impossible to ignore." On Patrick's final day aboard the Zenith, Xorlak presented him with a small device. "A token of our appreciation. It contains the complete medical record of your treatment here, along with technology that might benefit your people." "Thank you," Patrick said, genuinely moved. "What about your pain research?" "The prototype neural augmentation will begin testing next month. We're calling it the Jackson Protocol in your honor." Patrick laughed. "A human pain response named after me. I'm not sure whether to be flattered or horrified." "Both would be appropriate," Xorlak replied with a ripple of amusement. As Patrick prepared to board the transport that would return him to Earth, he turned to Xorlak one last time. "You know, there's an old Earth saying, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Maybe your version will help your people get the benefits without the worst of the suffering." "A wise distinction," Xorlak acknowledged. "We have much to learn from each other." The transport departed, carrying Patrick back toward Earth. On the Zenith, Xorlak returned to his laboratory, where the prototype neural augmentation awaited final adjustments. He activated the device and connected it to his own neural interface just temporarily to experience what he had been studying. A mild sensation unlike anything he had ever experienced radiated through his upper limb. It wasn't pleasant, but it demanded attention in a way that was fundamentally different from the standard neural alerts he was accustomed to. It had presence, immediacy. It couldn't be dismissed or deprioritized. Xorlak deactivated the device, his compound eyes wide with understanding. This was what humans lived with constantly, this capacity for sensation that went beyond data, that existed in the realm of experience. 3 months later, the first group of Vexilian volunteers received the neural augmentation. They were primarily those who worked in hazardous conditions: engineers, explorers, emergency responders. The results were immediate and compelling. Accident rates dropped significantly. Response times to dangerous situations improved. The augmented Vexilians reported a new relationship with their physical environment, more cautious, more aware, more present. There were challenges, of course. Some found the new sensations distressing and opted to have the augmentation removed. Others became overly cautious, hesitant to engage in necessary risks. But overall, the program was deemed a success. 6 months after Patrick's departure, Xorlak presented the findings at the Interstellar Medical Congress. His presentation caused a sensation among the gathered representatives from dozens of spacefaring species. The human pain response represents an elegant solution to a problem many advanced species have attempted to engineer away, he concluded. By eliminating discomfort, we eliminated a vital source of information. The Jackson Protocol reintroduces this information in a controlled manner, allowing us to benefit from millions of years of evolutionary wisdom. Questions flooded in from the audience. Would the protocol be appropriate for all species? Were there psychological side effects? Could it be modified for different physiologies? We are just beginning to understand the implications, Xorlak answered honestly. But one thing is clear, there is value in discomfort. Our encounter with human physiology has challenged our assumption that advanced biological systems should eliminate all unpleasant experiences. A representative from a crystalline species that communicated primarily through light patterns signaled for attention. Does this mean we should reintroduce other primitive responses? Fear? Anger? The chaotic emotions we have worked so hard to transcend. Xorlak considered the question carefully. I am a medical researcher, not a philosopher. But our experience suggests that we should examine what is lost when we eliminate these responses. Perhaps they serve functions we have overlooked. The discussion continued long into the night, with passionate arguments on both sides. Xorlak found himself defending a position he would have considered absurd only a year earlier, that there might be wisdom in what many advanced species had dismissed as primitive biological responses. 1 year after Patrick's rescue, the Zenith was dispatched to a remote sector where a new species had been discovered. As chief medical officer, Xorlak led the first contact medical team. He had opted to keep the neural augmentation, finding it valuable in his work despite the occasional discomfort. The new species was silicon-based, with a biology radically different from most known forms. Initial scans suggested they had a highly developed nervous system, but their responses to injury were puzzling. They appear to have something similar to pain, Mirex reported after preliminary observations. But it's communal. When one is injured, others in proximity experience the sensation as well. Fascinating, Xorlak said. A shared warning system. The entire group becomes aware of a threat to one member. Different solution, same problem, Mirex noted. Warning, attention, protection. Xorlak nodded. There are many paths to biological wisdom. Our mistake was thinking we had found the only one or the best one. As they prepared to make formal contact with the new species, Xorlak felt a twinge in his upper limb, the neural augmentation, responding to a slightly toxic element in the atmosphere. Not dangerous at current levels, but worth monitoring. He acknowledged the sensation with a newfound appreciation. Pain wasn't a bug in the biological system, it was a feature. A sophisticated, elegant solution to the fundamental problem of physical vulnerability. Humans hadn't failed to evolve beyond pain. They had preserved a vital adaptation that served them well. The Vexilian medical community had initially viewed human pain as primitive, a crude biological holdover that advanced species should transcend. Now they understood it was something else entirely, a complex, nuanced system that merged data with experience, creating an urgency no abstract alert could match. As Xorlak stepped forward to greet the representatives of the new species, he carried with him not only the technical knowledge from his encounter with Patrick Jackson, but also a deeper understanding of biological wisdom. Advanced technology wasn't always about eliminating discomfort. Sometimes it was about recognizing the value in what evolution had already perfected. The Jackson Protocol spread throughout Vexilian society and beyond, adopted by dozens of spacefaring species. Modified for different biologies, it created a new approach to physical awareness. Accident rates declined across the galaxy. Lives were saved. And a human from Earth, who had crashed his spacecraft in the wrong place at the right time, had unwittingly revolutionized how advanced species understood their own bodies. On Earth, Patrick Jackson received occasional updates about the impact of his unexpected medical contribution. He found it amusing that his pain, something he'd always taken for granted, had become his legacy among the stars. Pain, that most unwanted of sensations, turned out to be one of humanity's most valuable exports. The universe, it seemed, still had much to learn from the elegant solutions of evolution, even as technology raced ahead. And sometimes, progress meant rediscovering what had been there all along, the wisdom embedded in our most basic experiences, even those we wish we could avoid. Pain wasn't just about suffering. It was about attention, awareness, adaptation. It was about life protecting itself in the most direct way possible through an experience impossible to ignore. Advanced civilizations had engineered away many biological limitations, but in doing so, they had sometimes discarded valuable adaptations along with the inconveniences. The story of the Jackson Protocol became a case study in xenobiology courses throughout the galaxy, a reminder that different evolutionary paths could lead to different but equally valid solutions, and that sometimes what seems primitive at first glance might contain unexpected wisdom. In the vastness of space, amid the infinite diversity of life forms, the capacity to feel pain turned out to be one of the most sophisticated systems of all, not despite its discomfort, but because of it. Pain demanded attention in a way no abstract alert ever could. It merged information with experience, creating not just knowledge but wisdom. And in that merger of data and feeling lay a lesson that extended far beyond medicine: the value of subjective experience, the importance of not just knowing, but feeling, the wisdom that comes not despite discomfort, but through it. The universe, it seemed, still had much to teach even the most advanced civilizations. And sometimes those lessons came from the places they least expected, like the pain response of a supposedly less evolved species from a small blue planet at the edge of an ordinary galaxy.